Okay, let's just dive right into this explainer. Today, we're tackling that profound, creeping sense of emptiness so many of us experience, even when our lives look absolutely incredible on paper. You know the exact feeling I'm talking about, right? You've checked all the boxes, you've done everything you're supposed to do, but there's still this persistent, hollow echo inside. Well, in this explainer, we are going to synthesize psychological research, real-world lived experiences, and spiritual philosophy to decode exactly what this universal void actually is, why we feel it, and most importantly, how we can start addressing it.
Have you ever felt lonely when you're not actually alone? I want you to really think about that for a second. We're jumping straight in with this question because it perfectly validates that universal isolating void you might be experiencing right now. It is not just a passing mood. It reflects a much deeper internal state. You could have the absolute perfect job, the ideal social facade, and a bustling circle of friends, yet still feel completely lost and disconnected. So why does this happen? Well, to really understand it, we need to break this down through three distinct lenses.
Let's kick things off with Lens 1, the psychology of emptiness.
So, psychological research actually shows us that this emptiness usually stems from a lack of intimacy and purpose, not just a lack of social contact or career success. It really boils down to four main reasons. First off, you might not have a strong sense of identity, meaning you're just aimlessly coasting, or maybe you're losing yourself entirely to your work or the demands of everyone else around you. Second, you lack meaningful relationships. Sure, you might have plenty of acquaintances, but do you have true emotional closeness, genuine intimacy? Third, you might be carrying unresolved past traumas, mistakenly letting a past failure or loss define who you are today. And finally, having no personal dreams or passions. Without those, you're left without a meaningful trajectory to grow. Basically, emptiness is ultimately a symptom of losing touch with your own inner self.
And that leads us to this incredibly sneaky psychological trap known as covert avoidance. This is defined by trauma educator Anna Runkle, and it describes this elusive, hidden mechanism where you appear to be doing everything exactly right, but you are secretly living life from the outside looking in. Because of past hurts or maybe deep fears of rejection, you subconsciously build your life to avoid any real emotional risk. You might chronically procrastinate, socially withdraw, or constantly tell people you're just too busy for deep connections. You're trying to control your environment to avoid pain, but paradoxically, avoiding your life just makes it smaller and way more superficial. You remain frozen, and that leaves you feeling completely empty, despite having a perfectly polished exterior.
So how on earth do we break out of this? Well, psychologist Dr. Elizabeth Scott recommends what she calls an active coping strategy to consciously stop running from your own life. Step one is honestly just identifying your pattern. Ask yourself, what exactly are you avoiding and controlling? Step two is behavior modification. This means making a conscious choice to actually do something different or address the problem head-on instead of dodging it. And step three is cognitive, reframing your perspective and processing those uncomfortable emotions instead of just suppressing them. Taking back control by facing your life courageously, that is the first crucial step out of the psychological void.
Moving right along, let's look at Lens 2, the lived experience.
I was trapped under the weight of my own success. That is a direct quote from Mike Posner, the multi-platinum Grammy-nominated artist. And get this, Posner realized at age 30 that hitting every single external metric we're told to chase, millions of dollars, fame, global hit songs, actually made his feeling of emptiness worse. He had the pop star life, the money, the house in LA, but he felt an incredible asymmetry between what he had inside his soul and what his actual life reflected. He hit the very top of the mountain and realized the profound peace he was promised just wasn't there at all. He was doing exactly what we discussed earlier, stuffing external achievements into an internal void.
So, to cure this, Posner did something absolutely radical. He deliberately chose hardship. He literally walked all the way across the United States. He faced immense physical pain and even survived a near-fatal rattlesnake bite. In doing all of this, he engaged in a process known as alchemy. That's the artistic and human process of turning internal pain into external beauty and deep meaning. By leaning into severe discomfort, rather than running away from it through covert avoidance, he found a tougher, more resilient, and peaceful part of himself. He learned a hard truth. A life completely devoid of hardship isn't a peaceful life, it's just an empty one. The challenges we face and the vulnerability we embrace, that's what actually gives us genuine substance.
All right, zooming out to our final perspective, Lens 3, the spiritual intellect.
This lens reveals what is probably our absolute biggest mistake as human beings. We are fundamentally trying to solve a spiritual problem using the brain's physical tools. Look, the brain is an incredible analytical machine, right? It solves problems for physical needs like food, shelter, safety, and making money. But the spiritual intellect, which ancient texts often call the heart or the soul, is analyzing for something entirely different. It is hungry for spiritual food, for profound meaning, and for deep connection. When you feel that unexplainable emptiness after a great dinner out or landing a big promotion, it's because your physical body was fed, but your spiritual intellect is looking around saying, "Hey, I didn't find what I was looking for here."
And hey, this isn't just some abstract idea. Take a look at psychologist Abdullah Rothman's incredible search for the soul. Coming from a secular background, he was deeply intrigued by what the soul actually is, so he embarked on this multi-year global journey. Year 1, he's living in a Hindu temple, eating and dressing like a pundit. Year 2, he's living out in the woods with a Jamaican shaman. He then explored Jewish and Christian seminaries from the inside out, and finally discovered deep resonance in Islamic psychology. Rothman's journey across all these diverse global traditions proves that this spiritual intellect, this internal seeker, is truly universal. No matter the culture or the continent, there is a fundamental part of the human condition that relentlessly seeks a higher connection.
Which brings us to the absolute core dilemma here. On one side, we have finite things: wealth, the perfect job, superficial success, temporary physical pleasures. These things have limits. They eventually end. But on the other side, we have the human soul, which spiritual thinkers describe as an infinite, bottomless hole. Our completely flawed strategy in life is trying to stuff limited, finite things into an endless, infinite void. You can pile up all the money, the shiny objects, and the perfectly polished facade you want, but they are just going to fall right through. They simply aren't big enough to fill it.
Because at the end of the day, only the infinite can fill the infinite. We are fundamentally made for fullness. Reaching the top of your career mountain, just like we saw with Mike Posner, is really only halfway. A material facade will never ever cure a spiritual hunger. So if you are experiencing that creeping sense of boredom, unfulfillment, or just this nagging feeling that something massive is missing, it's a profound signal. It means you need to stop attempting to satisfy an infinite spiritual appetite with finite temporary distractions.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with one final, provocative thought to chew on. What are you using to fill your infinite hole? Are you hiding behind covert avoidance? Are you chasing the next promotion or relationship, hoping it'll finally be the one to bring you peace? Or are you ready to lean into the discomfort, connect deeply with others, and actually feed your spiritual intellect? Take a hard look at your own patterns. Stop running, and perhaps it's time to start alchemizing your life into something genuinely meaningful. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.